In this episode, Ben Shapiro covers a wide range of topics, centering on President Trump's recent primetime speech on affordability, the political dynamics on the right, and reflections on the evolving meaning of American identity. Additionally, he discusses developments in Venezuela, critiques of New York's new mayor, and polling on the 2028 presidential race, alongside various political controversies and endorsements. President Trump delivered a national address aiming to reset the narrative around affordability, a term increasingly used by the left following recent Democratic gains, such as the New York mayoral election. Trump's speech was a strategic attempt to shift focus back onto economic issues by presenting data comparing price changes under his tenure to those under President Biden. While he highlighted decreases in prices for items like propane, gasoline, mortgage costs, and sporting events, Shapiro noted the caveat that even with recent reductions, prices remain significantly higher than pre-Biden levels. This nuance contributes to why many Americans still feel economic pressure despite actual improvements in some sectors. Trump's use of charts echoed Ronald Reagan's narrative style, aiming to educate the public on complex economic realities. He emphasized real wage increases and tax cuts under his administration, contrasting them with Biden's losses and the rise of healthcare costs due to Obamacare. However, Shapiro explained that many Americans don't feel relief because prices for frequently purchased items like groceries and clothing remain high, and the benefits of lower mortgage costs affect only a small portion of the population annually. The episode highlighted the challenge of affordability as a subjective feeling rather than a clear-cut statistic. Trump's effort to quantify improvements was praised, even if the delivery was considered less compelling. Politically, Trump's speech was seen as a partial success in regaining control of the narrative, though Republicans face an uphill battle with low approval ratings ahead of the midterms. Shapiro detailed the intra-party conflict among Republicans regarding the extension of Obamacare subsidies. Faced with rising healthcare costs and voter concerns, 4 vulnerable House Republicans broke ranks to join Democrats in pushing for an extension of these subsidies. This defection exposed fractures in the GOP caucus, highlighting the tension between ideological opposition to the Affordable Care Act and the practical need to address constituents' financial burdens. House Speaker Mike Johnson had resisted holding a vote, citing widespread opposition among Republicans and framing Obamacare as a failed program. However, the rebels' actions aimed to demonstrate responsiveness to their districts, though the move was criticized by party leadership and editorial boards as politically self-serving. The episode suggested that some form of compromise is likely, perhaps with a shorter extension of subsidies, coupled with Republican-led efforts to reduce healthcare costs. A significant portion of the discussion focused on a growing ideological debate on the right regarding the definition of what it means to be an American. Shapiro contrasted 2 competing views, one based on lineage and heritage Americans, which emphasizes ancestral bloodlines tracing back to the country's founding, and the other grounded in civic ideals and values, Credal Americans, focusing on allegiance to constitutional principles and cultural assimilation. Drawing on a New York Times piece by Vivek Ramaswamy, Shapiro argued against the heritage-based view, calling it both politically unwise and morally flawed, as it alienates large groups of first- and second-generation Americans who embody the American experiment through belief in rule of law, freedom, and opportunity rather than ancestry. He stressed that American exceptionalism is rooted in adherence to ideas formed at the country's founding, not ethnic or racial purity. The episode cautioned Republicans about the political dangers of embracing heritage identity politics, as it narrows the party's base and risks losing vital demographic groups that Trump successfully courted in 2024. Instead, the creed-based vision offers a more inclusive and sustainable framework to unify diverse Americans under shared values. Shapiro examined a recent poll showing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez narrowly leading J.D. Vance in a hypothetical 2028 presidential matchup. Although within the margin of error, this poll was flagged as a warning sign for Republicans. Ocasio-Cortez, known for her progressive views, remains a significant figure, but is currently not the frontrunner for the Democratic nomination, with Gavin Newsom leading in early polling. The discussion emphasized that future Republican candidates like Vance will need to build their own coalitions rather than relying on Trump's support, given Trump's constitutional ineligibility to run for another term. History suggests inheriting coalitions often results in diminished support, making strategic coalition building essential for winning tight elections. Contrary to exaggerated online speculation about a Venezuelan invasion, Shapiro clarified that Trump's administration is focused on tightening an economic blockade targeting Venezuelan oil exports. This move aims to cut off funding to Nicolás Maduro's regime, which has been accused of financing terrorism and drug trafficking. The blockade seeks to apply maximum pressure to induce regime change without direct military engagement, a principle both supported and criticized among politicians. Democrats and some Republicans raised legal and humanitarian concerns, calling certain actions war crimes, while Trump's team stated their intent is to stop illegal activities and restore control over resources originally developed by American companies. Zoran Mandani's term as New York City mayor was profiled with a focus on his controversial appointments and policies. His choice to assign a lawyer who previously defended an al-Qaeda affiliate and radical anti-Israel activist as chief counsel raised alarms. Mandani's efforts to implement free public transportation were also criticized amid concerns about rising crime and safety issues on buses. Mandani's socialist rhetoric, framed around dignity and redistribution, was challenged on practical and historical grounds. Shapiro argued that traditional market solutions, not socialism's failed experiments, are more effective at addressing housing and affordability issues in urban areas like New York. Throughout the episode, Shapiro made multiple references to sponsors and advocates aligned with themes of self-reliance, American values, and support for veterans. These included Birch Gold for financial diversification, Pure Talk for conservative-aligned wireless service, priority tax relief for managing IRS debts, Alliance Defending Freedom for legal battles over women's sports rights, Arma Colostrum for health supplements, and Cars for Kids for charitable vehicle donations. Shapiro noted that Dan Bonino will resign from his FBI role in January, praising his patriotic service and integrity amidst political pressures. Bonino's departure was framed as the end of a complex but meaningful chapter in public service, including his work investigating sensitive cases and resisting politicization. The episode touched on ongoing disputes over military actions ordered by Pentagon officials like Pete Hotez, including strikes on drug boats associated with Venezuela and criticisms from congressional Democrats about transparency and legality. Shapiro debunked false rumors about excessive violence and emphasized the challenges of balancing national security with legal constraints. At the outset and conclusion, Shapiro promoted Rise of the Merlin, a new epic fantasy series premiering on Christmas Day exclusively for Daily Wire Plus All Access members. This project exemplifies the company's commitment to ambitious entertainment ventures, telling classic legends with modern scale and production.